All right, welcome to another episode of Interviewing the Experts. I'm Devin Burke, founder of Sleep Science Academy, and today I have Rudy Nassif, the founder of Viva Rays, which are these glasses that we're going to be talking about. He's an engineer and he's a light researcher. And today we're going to be talking about the effects of light on our health, our sleep, our mood, and how to optimize our light environment to harness the power of healthy light. So Rudy, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Excited to have this
Thanks so much.
conversation.
Thanks so much for having me, Devin.
So let's just dive right into what is dirty light? So we hear, now that this is kind of a new thing. Let's into the health space. People are becoming more light conscious, light aware of, different frequencies of light and how it affects health. But let's just jump right into what is dirty light. And then I want to get into your story about like what led you into researching light and understanding the power of light.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So when we speak about light and health, people get puzzled because for so many years, we think about light as something merely for vision. And what it turns out that light is not merely for vision. In fact, a small part of light is only for vision, and there's a massive part that actually influences our subconscious, which influences the way we feel, the way we act. So I tell people light is the most powerful force that shapes and molds so many aspects of our health and well-being. And I see people looking at me extremely puzzled, right? Because it's not very common to speak about light and health. And what I'd like everyone listening to know is that though most of the time our health is measured by the balance of hormones and neurotransmitters, and often when those are unbalanced, we feel anxiety and depression, we go into insomnia, and then oftentimes practitioners who are trained in biochemistry will go and do different tests and they will see, oh my God, dopamine is low, serotonin is not as high, melatonin is low, and we start getting into taking things to bring us back to balance. But here's the thing, it's not about taking things so much because the body is innately designed to produce those things when you give it the right conditions and circumstances and when you're in the right environment. And what so many don't know is that light is actually the boss that is actually giving the instructions for our neurochemicals and hormones on what to do. It literally provides the energy to convert so many of those neurotransmitters, and it allows us to make a model of ourselves in space. And it literally changes the way we perceive ourselves and we perceive our world. So what I tell people, good light is equal to good life, because it's literally boosting all of your neurotransmitters and hormones that allow you to make a model of yourself where you have a confident self-image and where you can relate to people. You're a happy individual. And this is due to light influencing your neurochemicals in the proper way. But what most people don't know is that light is a double-edged sword. It can either make you happy and it creates wonders in your life when it's the right light at the right time of the day, but it can equally make you ill, depressed, anxious, and even it can make you gain weight. And this is what I refer to the bad light or junk light. And this light often comes from our phones, our screens, our devices. But not only this, all of us in our modern world, we're bombarded by LED bulbs. We use it in our home, in our kitchen, in our bedroom. We go down the streets, there's all these bright lights that we use at night down the malls. And this light has not been designed taking our biology in perspective. So what this light does, it's actually very deficient. There is a doctor back in the 1990s, his name is Dr. John Ott, and he was one of the first people to give an amazing analogy about light. And he said, just like different foods influence our body, and we need a balanced of different vitamins and minerals in order to maintain optimal health and vitality. Also, different frequencies of light influence our body, and we need a balanced frequencies of light in order to maintain vitality and health. So, for anyone listening, perhaps you know, perhaps not, but if you overdose on one vitamin or one mineral, you will cause toxicity in your body and you'll become sick, right? And this is the key in balancing your nutrition. It's the same thing with light. Dr. John Ott did a lot of research on how different frequencies of light affect our sleep, our mood. And what he realized is that we need a balanced spectrum of all the different frequencies of light in order to maintain health and vitality. And if we look at sunlight, for example, sunlight is composed of this a full spectrum of light. And when we say spectrum of light, it may seem very scientific and, oh my God, what is that? But to be honest, you are surrounded by that spectrum every single day. If you think of the colors of the rainbow, ranging from blue, green, yellow, orange, red, this is part of the spectrum of the visible light, which we can see in our eyes. But here's the thing. There's also the light that we don't see in our eyes. It's the invisible light, consisting of UV and infrared, which plays a fundamental role in our biology. And when we are exposed to the fullness of that light from sunlight, then our body is getting the right instructions on when to do what. And a lot of the enzymes on our body are absorbing the right frequency that allow us to digest food better, that allow us to be in a better mood. In fact, UV light, when we go outside first thing in the morning around 8 or 9 a.m., we get UV light shining in our eyes and skin. It literally increases nitric oxide production and increases circulation. And all healing is tied to good blood circulation. But not only this, it makes us calm and less anxious. And you probably know, Devin, most health seekers today are really struggling with anxiety and overstimulation.
Yes.
And what often happens is we're sitting in these indoor artificially lit rooms, and these rooms are completely voided from the frequencies of light that nourishes us. And they tend to have a spike in the blue light. And coming back to the analogy of Dr. John Ott, we need that balance between all the frequencies. And if we overconsume a mineral, we get toxic. Similarly, what's happening in our modern world, we're overconsuming that spike of blue light day and night, and it's causing this toxicity. During the day, we run into headaches, agitation, eye strain, and it gets really worse and a lot more dangerous at night. Because if you think about it, for thousands or 100,000s of years throughout our evolution, we have never been exposed to any form of blue or green light after the sunset. Our ancestors were only exposed to fire and candlelight, which is very warm, gentle light that is free from blue and green. And what blue and green light do to us first thing in the morning is that they wake us up. They kickstart that hormonal ball that allow us to feel alert, energized, and ready for the day. But here's the key. They must be balanced with red and infrared. And in sunlight, they are balanced. The problem is that if you shine that phone first thing in the morning in your eyes, you're getting a blast of blue light that is not balanced with red and infrared. And it starts creating inflammation. It creates overstimulation, and it's no good. And it gets even worse at night because, again, we're not designed to be exposed to blue and green light at night. So anytime we come back home from our work, we turn on the television, we're scrolling on social media, we're turning on the light bulbs to cook, we're sending a wrong signal to our brain, telling our brain it's 12 noon when it's actually 7 p.m. at night. And this completely confuses our inner pharmacy. It starts secreting the wrong hormones at the wrong time of the day. So instead of secreting melatonin, which is the sleep hormone that will allow you to have a rejuvenative night's sleep, the body starts secreting cortisol, which is the hormone that makes you stressed, wired, and stimulated. And what often happens, people feel the illusion that they have more energy at night. I don't know if you've ever talked to people trying to get them to sleep early. They tell you, oh my God, no, like I get my creativity and my high energy at night. And
Hmm.
that's a false illusion due to being exposed to the wrong frequency, the bad light at the wrong time of the day.
Wow. I mean, gosh, there's so much in what you just said. Like, there's so many questions I have, and just there's a lot in what you just shared. But kind of just to break it down, there's different frequencies of light. Light plays a huge role in the release of different chemicals, hormones, neurotransmitters in our bodies. And the type of light that most people are being exposed to is not the right frequencies, or it's incomplete frequencies, which is throwing off our biorhythms, which is creating more anxiety and stress and creating really disease, or adding to inflammation and disease. And most people are not aware of it.
Absolutely. That's an amazing way to wrap it up.
Okay. So I have, a personal story with light, and I want to hear your personal story as well. Growing up, Rowdy, I actually had something called SAD. They SAD, seasonal affective disorder. I lived in Pennsylvania, and it was in high school, and I was getting up early to go to basketball practice. The sun wasn't up, and I would go to school, and then in the north in the winter, the sun is, sets really early. So I was getting up in the dark, and I was actually not getting any sunlight. And I was coming home from basketball practice, doing my homework in the dark, and then going to bed and doing this over and over again for weeks. And I'm a really happy, vibrant guy. And every winter, I would start to get depressed. I would start to feel low energy. I'd break out in acne and things. I mean, yeah, I was in high school, so that probably, has some hormones going on, but I would feel lethargic, tired, depressed. And so my mom actually, she did some research on light, and she said, hey, I think you might have this thing called seasonal affective disorder. Let's get you a light box. And so I'd come home from practice, or in the morning, I would use this box first thing in the morning when I woke up, and I listened to the Beach Boys on a cassette tape. And that was I did that, and actually made a huge difference in how I felt. And that actually was the decision to move from PA to South Florida to get more light, to not have to be in the winter, and because I'm hyper light sensitive apparently. And I wanted to ask you about that. Are certain people more sensitive to the impact of light? Have you found that in your research?
Well, I do think that we are all impacted by light in the same way at a subconscious and on a cellular level. Some of us are more aware of that impact.
Okay.
Others, we're becoming more alienated because we have never felt what it feels like to really be in our most vibrant, most vital state. And it's almost like eating McDonald's for so long
Mm,
that you become habituated to it. And then suddenly you find yourself eating whole foods and you realize, oh my God, what was I missing? And it's
yes.
not until that point that you realize that you were missing on a lot. And another point I want to touch on, that SAD is very common, but it's an effect. It's not it's not a cause that we deal with within ourselves. It's the effect of imbalance that's being caused by how we're behaving around light. And what I want to add to this is that when we are living up north, we will experience winter, and there's no escape from this. But there are ways around that to help your body know that it's winter. So let's take a wolf as an example. A wolf during the fall is continuously outside, and its pineal gland is measuring the length of the day and is measuring the change of the frequencies of light happening in the environment. Because think about shifting from fall to winter, the days start getting shorter and we
Yes.
start getting less UV light. So what happens is, because the wolf is connected to its environment, it will not wait until the first snowfall until it grows its fur, right? It can predict the arrival of the winter and makes the proper physiological changes in order to optimally adapt to its environment. Otherwise, it
Mm,
will die. It will not survive. And what happened for us human beings is that we have completely shifted from an outdoor lifestyle to an indoor lifestyle that is extremely corrupted. Our
Mm,
physical forces that instruct our body, like light and magnetism, are no longer there. And what I mean by magnetism is literally our connection to Earth. The
yes.
wolf is not wearing a rubber band shoes, whereas we are. And what's very interesting is that there's a shift in the frequency of Earth that happens between summer and winter. And all of this act as information that is supposed to instruct our body to make that shift.
Mm,
And as modern human beings, we wear rubber band shoes, we're disconnected from the earth, and we're living an indoor lifestyle where we are sitting under artificial light all the time. This light is constant, it's not changing. There's no change between day and night, which is tragic because it's really breaking down that biological rhythm that you spoke about. But also, we're not experiencing that change between one season to another. The
mm.
day is not shortening because out of a sudden we have full control to turn on that light and turn it off. And it's not Mother Nature that is controlling this anymore. And as a result, most people experience SAD. And while the box of SAD may alleviate the symptoms, it's only working on a surface level. And I don't really recommend it because most of those SAD devices, they're actually designed to bring a lot of bright light, which is good in a sense because it's going to alleviate the SAD, but its frequency, it's very deficient. And we're still dealing with that same toxic frequency of blue light shining all the time in our eyes. One of the things that we are working on right now is how can we create a SAD device that has the fullness of the spectrum and that
Mm.
can mimic sunlight in the way it changes from morning to night, but not only this, from season to season. And it's
That's
been
amazing.
a challenging project, but I'm so excited about the day when we're going to be able to launch this.
I'm excited too because I had personally, affected me in a big way, and I had no idea about, not getting the full spectrum. I know it made a difference. And it's one of these things that so many people I think are unaware of that actually, we get the winter blues. A lot of people don't even know it's a thing. They have no idea, like you're saying, which is why it's so exciting to me that we're having this conversation to get this information out there so people can start to, you know, change their behaviors and implement better, like the circadian lighting. That's a whole thing. That's sort of a wave. People are starting to understand what we're talking about because I see a couple companies and a couple different things coming out that kind of the light changes throughout the day, the different spectrums. I have seen some cool things like that, which is amazing because that's if we're going to be 90% of the time indoors, let's at least have lights that try to mimic the sun, right? That would be a good idea. But I love the work that you're doing, and I imagine that it's challenging work because people are used to doing things a certain way, right? The light industry is used to doing a certain way, and that kind of what you're experiencing with trying to implement something that's really been around forever. That's just not in the lighting company's awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somehow, if you look in our past evolution, in every phase when someone tried to introduce something new, they were laughed at and they were faced with a tremendous amount of resistance. And it's no difference for us. I mean, for the past 2 years, we've been faced with a tremendous amount of resistance and a limited mindset that will oftentimes, run away from a new concept that has not been created before. Um, Luckily, just recently, I met some engineers from Germany. For the first time in 2 years, I sat down with them and they were actually excited about the challenge of bringing something new that has not been thought about before. And though we are starting to pick some momentum with like human-centric lighting, circadian lighting, it's still very reductionist in its approach. And
Okay.
one of the reasons why it's reductionist is because we have some studies showing that we have this protein in the eye called melanopsin, which
Yes.
is most sensitive to blue light and much less sensitive to red light. And what this melanopsin does is we go outside first thing in the morning, it detects the presence of blue and green light in the environment, and it sends a signal to the central clock in the brain, which controls all of our hormones and neurotransmitters, and it also controls when we go to sleep, when we wake up, and it also controls the quality of our sleep, how well we
Yes.
sleep and how rested we feel when we wake up. And what this clock is looking for is consistent exposure to morning sunlight at the same time every day, and consistent exposure to darkness at night at the same time every day. Now, the reason why we're faced with a reductionist approach is because, okay, we're saying, well, we have this melanopsin, it's sensitive to blue, so it needs blue during the day. It's much less sensitive to red, so it needs red at night. And then we're trying to design artificial lighting that has a lot of blue during the day so that it stimulates melanopsin and it wakes us up, and that is free of blue and only has red at night, so that we're not being stimulated and that we avoid our sleep being disrupted. And while this may work at a surface level, it's still very reductionist, because guess what? It's not taking in consideration the fullness of the spectrum. So, so another time, we're just being very reductionist in our approach, thinking about how to resolve one specific thing and taking a lot of other things outside of the equation. And I'm gonna give just one example of why this doesn't work. There's a biochemist back in the 1980s, I believe. He published so many different studies showing how so many enzymes and hormones in our body that are involved in metabolism and our ability to absorb and digest food are actually influenced by light. They absorb different frequencies of light, and they become 10 to 15 times more efficient, right? So I want to rethink this another time. If you are getting the right frequency to the right enzymes, you are able to absorb food 15 times more efficiently.
Interesting.
Right? So what this means, perhaps you need to eat 15 times less food that you eat under junk light if you were to eat it outside. And perhaps you will need a lot less vitamins, a lot less supplements, because your body is becoming a lot more efficient at absorbing that food. So this is just one small example why being reductionist and taking one study about melanopsin, trying to solve a problem of light that nature, has worked on for billions of years, with a reductionist approach just doesn't really work.
I love it. I mean, what I'm getting from what you're saying is, the trying to recreate humans do this. We take pieces of information and we just sort of take it and put it in these boxes without looking at it holistically and really looking at, well, nothing can beat the sun. So how do we at least try to mimic the sun the best we can to then integrate it into our 21st century lifestyle, which is, I think, a real big challenge. And it's amazing that you're taking that challenge on, because I know, well, you're sitting outside right now and you're probably, I imagine you spend a lot of your time outdoors. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my office. This is where I work from. I'm outdoors all the time. Even when I used to live in British Columbia and Canada, during the fall and early winter, I was still setting my office outdoors. And basically, there's a lot of amazing benefits that people access when they start exposing their skin to the cold, because that's one of the environmental cues that also allow us to know that winter is approaching, so that we can physiologically adapt to it. And there's actually a webinar that I launched last year before the winter, where I taught people about 8 steps they can take so they can transition smoothly into the winter and overcome the winter blues, and tap into the most vibrant, most vital part of themselves, even during the winter.
So we gotta,
people are,
yeah, we gotta put a link below in the description for people to check out that webinar. Absolutely. That sounds like it's very much needed. And if it's, people need these clear steps, which I do want to start to talk about what are some things that people can do to help improve the quality of their light exposure. I mean, and here's a question I have for you, because you see this thing on my nose here. I spent a lot of time outside. I went to the dermatologist yesterday, and they said, we don't like what we see on your nose. They froze it off because so how much is too much too much sun? How do we protect our skin? A lot of people are afraid of the sun. These
Yes.
skin so they're like, I can't get, yeah, they're afraid to get out and get light on their skin because of skin cancer, and they're spraying all types of chemicals on their body, sunscreens that, it's so talk to us a little bit about how can we start to harness the power of sunlight in a healthy way, um, and also avoid damage so people don't, go around with, you know, red things on their nose like me. So what are some
Yeah.
steps to kind of start
Yeah.
this process?
Absolutely. That's an amazing question. Just like if you were to start exercising today, and if you've been someone sedentary for so long, you don't just go to the gym and start with like heavy weights and 2 hours in the gym, because you're going to end up hurting yourself. And in the same way, we've been alienated from sunlight for the past 150 years ago. And one of the ways that we could start exposing to ourselves to sunlight safely is by building our solar callus. But I'm glad that you brought that up. The solar callus is basically increasing your resilience and increasing your body's ability to absorb light efficiently without burning, right?
Okay.
And many people today, they think, oh my God, UV light is bad. I must put that sunscreen, those sunglasses to block it. And they probably, heard that it causes cancer, cataract. Their dermatologist or clinician recommended that they block 100% of the UV. But basically, how is it possible that sunlight, the most powerful nutrient in our solar system, to be dangerous? Do we really think that nature made some kind of mistake? I don't think so. I think the way we're behaving around sunlight is what is causing the problems. And basically, there are hundreds of quality peer-reviewed studies done, proving the health benefits of UV. However, somehow conventional medicine is still operating with an old belief that UV light is bad, and it has not caught up with the new understanding of how powerful and important UV light in driving every aspect of our health and biology. And if we want to go back and trace that limiting belief and where it came from, based on my studies, it actually came from few sketchy studies that were conducted back in the 1980s that created a lot of fear. And I'm just gonna highlight one of those studies. The main one was done on monkeys in the College of Virginia in 1981, I believe. And the result of the study were highly questionable because they don't pertain to reality. And what happened is the eyelids of the monkey were wide open with clamps, and this fully dilated their pupils, and they were not able to blink anymore. And basically, blinking is the natural mechanism that we all use to adjust to brightness and to lubricate our eyes. So if you're someone right now sitting in front of the screen and listening to me, not only I advise you to wear our glasses, which filter that junk, toxic light that causes inflammation in your eyes, but also make the habit of blinking more often, because
Hmm.
it's really going to lubricate the eye and protect your eye. So back to that study, they shown intense bright light with extreme high levels of UV light. And beside the abuse, the amount of the UV light that they shone into their eyes was abnormal. And it did not represent the balanced trace of UV light that we get from sunlight. Okay. Now, another very important point, anytime we get UV light from sunlight, it's never isolated from its polar opposite. And what is its polar opposite? It's what we find on the other side of the spectrum. It's red light and infrared light.
Hmm.
Okay. And in those studies, they only show UV with no infrared, with no red light. And infrared and red light are regenerative. So they tend to basically undo any degeneration that may have happened because of high frequency blue or UV light. So basically, back to Dr. John Ott, he uses an amazing analogy to think about this. If you give too much oxygen at birth to a child, will blind the baby. However, can you, like, how foolish it would be to think that we need to avoid oxygen at all costs? It would be deadly. And unfortunately, in the 20th century today, we are making false conclusions about UV light just because we have we have shown, we have did studies that do not pertain to reality and do not pertain to nature at all. So
Huh.
uh
This is very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if these studies were funded by sunscreen companies. I'm just going to throw that out there, but
absolutely. And here's what most people don't know about sunglasses. When you put sunglasses, you go outside, you block your the only pathway through which your body knows that there's UV in the environment.
Oh,
Because
interesting. So okay.
the eyes are the window through which light enters and give instruction to your skin to produce melanin.
Interesting. I
And
did
you go
not know that.
outside and you put those sunglasses that block 100% of the UV, guess what happens? Your skin doesn't produce melanin and you're more likely to burn.
Interesting. So now we just this is fascinating. So and I'm a big sunglass guy. So I just learned maybe this is why I have this little spot on my nose because I've been wearing sunglasses too much and my skin isn't producing the proper nutrients to, absorb that UV light versus have it create damage on my face. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And just to highlight, melanin is the compound that make you tan. It protects your skin from tanning, from burning. And without melanin in your skin, you will absolutely burn because it's literally the nature's or your body's natural sunscreen.
Got it. Okay. So what would you say to somebody? I mean, everyone has different skin types, right? So there's some in my family, I'll just speak from personal experience. Some of my brothers have a little bit of Irish in our family, and they're pretty white. And they burn, they burn very easily, even way more than me that get a little bit more of the Italian skin. But I mean, how does that impact, I guess, our relationship to sun exposure and building up this solar callus, depending on your skin type? Do you have any information you can share about that?
Absolutely. So the skin type is extremely important. And one of the things that often happen in our modern world, imagine I'm someone living in Canada. I've been indoor throughout all the winters and probably the fall because people still in the spring, avoid being outside. And then summer comes and it's an extremely beautiful day. Temperature is up and we decide to go tan. We go at 11 noon or close to noon, and we literally bombard ourselves with a lot of sunlight, and then we come back home around 4, so we don't even stay until the sun is setting. And guess what? We're exposed to a lot of artificial light at night, and then we go to sleep. We wake up the second day, we're completely fried. So I'm gonna rewind back and tell you why we've done a catastrophe there. Number one, we haven't built up our solar callus in the spring. So out of a sudden, we decide to go out in the intense sunlight of the summer and we expose ourselves intensely for hours. This doesn't work. Our ancestors have been outside through the spring into the summer, and this prepares their skin to absorb more light without burning. That's mistake number one that oftentimes people make. Mistake number two, most people go to the beach at 10 or 11, close to noon. And by that time, the sun is already extremely high in the sky and UV light is high. And what did they miss? They missed that part where sunlight is still rising off the horizon super early. And during that time, there's no UV being emitted from sunlight. It's more red and infrared light. And what infrared light does, it actually prepare your skin to absorb more UV light later at noon without burning. So this is mistake number two. Don't go and expose yourself to sunlight around noon when UV light is extremely strong. You gotta pick up the day from its beginning and perhaps get into the habit of building that solar callus by going outside and exposing as much of your skin as possible every single morning until you find that you start building your tan. And when you're building your tan, your melanin is increasing, then it's time, by that time, you could start incrementally increasing your sunlight exposure around noon. So that's step number two. Step number three, don't put sunglasses for the obvious reason that I mentioned before. Step number four is most people, again, they go to tan around 4 when the sun is like less intense. They get bored, they leave home. Well, they missed the sunset one more time. And what does the sunset give to people? Again, give UV, infrared and red light free of UV light. And this is a very important period that nature has designed for us to basically repair any damage that might have happened during the day from overexposure to UV. And lastly, people go back home, and guess what? The sun has set, they turn their television, they turn their artificial lights on, and their brain is completely confused and tricked into thinking it's daytime. What happens then? No melatonin is being circulating in their body, and a lot of cortisol, the stress hormone, is present, which completely sabotages growth hormone and melatonin. And when we go to sleep, the presence of melatonin and growth hormone allow us to go through deep repair and deep rejuvenation and cleaning on a cellular level, on an organ level. And when we miss that, we're more likely to wake up the second morning fried. So basically, if you got really exposed to a lot of sunlight and you somehow like overexpose yourself, if you block artificial light at night and get a restful night's sleep, you're more likely to wake up in the morning with your skin feeling fine and heal and completely healed. Whereas take that same person who got the same sunlight exposure and expose them to artificial light at night, they're going to get a terrible night's sleep, and they will wake up with their skin completely irritated and red.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, what I'm getting from what you're saying is, how can we get, the question is like, how can we get back to nature? To how can we integrate more out of the outdoors in our lifestyle with this type of knowledge? And I think that's a hurdle for a lot of people. It is a change in how they think. It's a change in how we live.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's the big hurdle for probably most people that are listening to this. Most people probably aren't going to set up an outdoor office. Hopefully they take your advice on not wearing the sunglasses and getting some morning light, and maybe even if they go home, go back out and watch the sunset, because I know that's so important. And let's kind of, I want to kind of get into, there's so many more questions I have for you about infrared light and about perineal sunning. And I have all kinds of crazy questions to ask you, but I do want to talk about Viva Rays, because I know you designed these very intentional. And when we first connected, and I got to experience these, companies have sent me all different types of products to test and wanting to promote, and I'm very particular about the companies and people I choose to work with. And the quality of the lenses and sort of the technology of being able to switch when the sun's setting and then put the red ones on at night, they're great, they're phenomenal. And I think they're a great tool for people that a stepping stone for people to start to filter the bad light and start to improve their light relationship. So can you share a little bit about the technology behind these glasses, how to use them, and let's go there.
Absolutely. Just before I start about the technology, you mentioned that not all people will be able to like set their office outside, and it's like a big step, right? And they don't need to start from there. In fact, I never started from right away setting my office outside, and this is not even something that is 100% necessary. I mean, it's gonna take things to the next level for sure, but you could start small. Take those small steps. So 2 small steps will really take every aspect of your health, sleep, and mood to the next level. And the step number 1 is just wake up first thing in the morning, step outside. Avoid looking at your phone and turning all these bright lights at home. Go outside, take 15 to 20 minutes to walk, get that sunlight on your face. And this will really make a massive difference in the way you sleep, your energy, your mood. And you know what's good about this? It's like unlike any other thing that most health experts recommend, from melatonin pills to supplement. All of these things may and may not work. And if people have been, health seekers for a while, they have probably noticed that oftentimes it's like it gets complicated.
Oh yeah,
What's really
overwhelming.
beautiful about this, it's like it's very simple, and
Yes.
it takes as short as 3 days to start working for you. So give it a try. Get that morning sunlight, and then at night, after the sun has set, make sure you have high quality circadian glasses that are designed to filter the bad light, because this bad light will undo all the great work that you have done during the day. If you get a lot of sunlight during the day, then you expose yourself to bad light at night, it will really wipe out those benefits because it will confuse your clock again.
Mm.
And what a better time. Let's talk about Viva Rays, because this is exactly what the Viva Rays glasses have helped me and helped thousands of our customers to do. We always instruct our customers to maximize healthy light during the day, 30 minutes of morning sunlight. But also, there's like some other steps that they need to take in relation to how they protect themselves from the bad light. And for us, we have created 3 different lens technologies for different times of the day, because the light in nature is not constant and it's continuously changing. So you need a technology that adapt to that change and allow your body to know the exact time of the day. So the daytime lenses, which are the ones that you're wearing right now, they are designed to balance out that narrow peak at 455 nanometer that I spoke about. It's this
Okay.
nasty spike that we get from LED bulbs and screens. And those glasses, unlike other blue light blocking glasses commonly advertised for to be worn during the day, they don't block blue light, but they balance the blue light. So it becomes more proportionate with the yellow and with the green. So you're taking a step towards balance. It's definitely not 100% balanced yet, because you're not still getting that full spectrum, but
Right.
it's absolutely an amazing step towards balance, which lead people to feel a lot of relief, less eye strain, less headaches, less agitation, greater ability to focus, and greater ability to get things done. And when we're referring to our daytime glasses, we also like to differentiate them from a lot of the clear blue light blocking glasses in the market, because those have become so popular. And
Yes.
it breaks my heart, because what most people don't know is those glasses, though you could be paying for them $300 or $400 and at an optometrist office, they're actually blocking blue purple light that is not emitted from LED bulbs and screens. And it's like, it's crazy. I went to optometrist offices with my spectrocolor
Yeah.
and I showed them, I measured the light that is emitted from the light bulb in front of their eyes. And I'm like, guys, look at that. The light is starting at 4:30, it's peaking at 4:55. And then I took their glasses and I showed them their glasses were blocking blue light up to 420 nanometer. So it's literally the light that is not emitted from LED bulbs and screen. It's terrible.
Jeez. Go
It's
figure.
crazy.
It is
So
crazy.
that's in relation to the daytime glasses. Now, I spoke about the importance of being exposed to sunset, and it doesn't
Yes.
need to be direct. We
We
could
have
be outside around the sunset, and light is information. It's going to tell our nervous system to start preparing for a restful night's sleep. Instantly, when we're outside around the sunset, the nervous system starts switching into rest and rejuvenation mode. But the problem is that it's not long lasting, because we come back home and we're exposed to the second sun from the LED bulbs while scrolling on social media, while watching our favorite television show. And this literally sabotages the benefits that we got from morning sunlight and from the sunset. So that's when the evening glasses that you're wearing right now kick in to help the brain understand that it's evening and to filter out all of the bad frequencies that would otherwise confuse the brain.
so
And
when
those were the
I'm sorry to
yeah,
cut
go
you off,
ahead.
but when would you so I'm wearing my daylight glasses here. I'm exposed to some LED from my light box here, and then when do you advise putting the second sort of sunset lenses on? Like when the sun starts to set, is this, and if you're still indoors, then say, hey, let me just pop these on. Is that kind of what you'd recommend?
Right after the sunset.
Okay, so the
So
sun sets, it's now the sun is set. I'm going to put these on, and then I wear these for till when?
So basically, you put these on. The concept behind these is that they are in to make the color temperature of the bonfire.
Got it.
And
Okay.
I don't know if people still remember the feeling around the bonfire because we're not often bonfires anymore. But when I'm around the bonfire, I don't know about you, Devin. Like, how do you feel usually around the bonfire?
I feel completely relaxed. I feel kind of it sort of hypnotizes you.
Exactly. So you get that calm and relaxation effect. Yet, by the beginning of the bonfire, you still have that energy to cook, socialize with your friends, dance, and so on. So this is exactly what the evening glasses do.
Okay.
They are designed to mimic the color temperature of the bonfire. So you start calming down, you start feeling relaxed, yet you have the energy to attend to your evening tasks, cook, socialize, and do your things. Now, about 1 hour before bed, we switch to the nighttime glasses. And the nighttime glasses, the way I like to describe them, it's like the end of the bonfire when the
Okay.
wood turns into amber coil. And we all know by this time we feel like super cozy, like super ready for bed. We're not dancing anymore. We're not eating. We're not socializing. It's like, all right, I'm ready to go and have the best night's sleep ever. And this is exactly what the nighttime glasses are designed to do. They filter out 100% of the blue and the green, and they
Mm-hmm.
decrease the brightness by 15 times, which is a very important aspect that a lot of the lenses in the market are missing. And what this does is it tells our brain that it's completely dark outside, and we start optimizing that melatonin and growth hormone, which prepare us for and set us up for a restful, rejuvenated night's sleep.
Got it. So these are the last hour of the day you'd recommend them putting on the I guess what do you call these ultra red ones?
The nighttime glasses.
The nighttime glasses. So
Yes.
so this is really, I mean, uh, this is a breakthrough. I love the three lenses. That was one thing that I loved. Rather than having to have three different pairs of glasses, you have one pair of glasses, then you can just kind of they just kind of
Interchange.
magnetically change here, which is kind of fun too. Um, and so, okay, that makes perfect sense as far as how to use these, when to use them, and also the science around the actual lens technology themselves. And that's very interesting about what you shared about the other, blue light blocking glasses. It's such a shame, it's a lack of education. And that's why I love doing these types of conversations, because I always learn things. And people watching these are my clients at Sleep Science Academy. They're going to learn a ton from this conversation. And then it's just about, like you said, making these small steps. We don't have to make these huge steps into completely changing our lives, but we can start to make small steps. And those small steps make a huge difference when we consistently implement them. And
Absolutely, and it's really about that consistency, Devin, because all our circadian clock is waiting for is that consistent signal first thing in the morning and that consistent signal at night. So it wants brightness and full spectrum sunlight consistently at the same time every day, and it's also waiting for that consistent signal of darkness after the sunset. So simply by going at the same time every single morning and exposing our eyes to morning sunlight, and by making the habit of blocking artificial light right after the sunset every single day at the same time, then we're providing our circadian clock the most powerful signal that it's waiting from the environment, consistency of light and dark signals.
love it.
And this is exactly what control the most powerful force that control our sleep is the circadian force.
Right.
And when we master the circadian force, we're easily able to master our sleep. And everything else we do around improving that quality would be in addition, and it would be amazing. But we must get the pillar, the foundation first.
I love it. Yeah, and it's just getting back to nature, really. It's really just that's the question. It's how do we integrate more nature, more of what's provided for free into our daily lives. And I think it takes a commitment, it takes a awareness, it takes education. And then it also, it's great that we have products that like the ones that Viva raised that can help us do it in an easier way. Because sometimes ideally it would be like we don't have blue light in our houses, right? We're not maybe watching Netflix or TV shows or on social media, but people are still going to do that. So if you're going to do it,
Absolutely.
at least take the action to mitigate the harmful effects of that light, to start to move towards a healthier lifestyle. Um, it's massive. I mean, so the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that's the master clock. We talked about that. We talked about so much as far as how to build up the solar callus in the body, how to create a healthier environment in our homes. What do you think about this? I did want to ask you about the indoor sunset. I always tell our clients, as the sun starts to set, start turning off like the lights in your home, as just to try to mimic, if you don't have circadian lighting, or if you don't have, at least start to just turn off dim lights, maybe have a salt lamp. What do you think about that recommendation?
I think that's a very wise and amazing recommendation because again, it ties to bright light during the day and lack of brightness at night. So when we come in the evening, it's very important to start dimming those lights. Now, another advice that I would give people: avoid overhead lighting and try
Okay.
to place your lighting closer to the floor. And I think the Himalayan salt lamp is an amazing thing to recommend because you often place it on a floor level or down on the ground. And the reason for that is because of that protein that we spoke about, melanopsin, in the eyes, which is very sensitive to bright light and to blue light, and much less sensitive to red light. But technically, melanopsin is concentrated in the lower half of the retina. And because of the nature of optic, there's an inversion that happens. So melanopsin is most stimulated by overhead lighting. And it makes sense because sunlight is overhead. So simply by changing the positioning of your lighting at night, it will also make a tremendous difference.
Interesting. I love that. I just learned something else. I love when I'm learning new things, and I'm sure the people watching this have learned a lot. And so, yeah, even the positioning of your lights can make a difference. So there's always what I love about that. There's always little things you can do to, once you have some knowledge of how the body works, to improve your life in a small way. So that I'm
Yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
gonna take note of that, to share that, and also to implement that into my the lighting in my home. We have
Absolutely.
so
And
I have a lot more I want to ask you, but I do want to be conscious of time here, and so we might have to do a second round, because
yes,
I have some questions that I haven't asked you, some fun ones about lighting, and UV, about ultraviolet light, and a bunch of different sort of practices that people implement, some funny ones and some more serious ones, in connection to spiritual practices and things. So we'll have to save those questions for another conversation, or round two.
I love it.
So we'll wrap today up. I will put a link to your webinar below this, so people can check that out, people that are living up north. Also a link to check out the amazing product, the Viva Ray glasses. I know you have different styles. I have the kind of Elton John looking ones. I know you have some other styles available for people.
Yes. And
And
they're also available in prescription and non-prescription.
Oh, good to know. Okay,
Yes.
that's definitely probably a question a lot of people were wondering. Um, so yeah, so we'll put some links to all this good stuff below for everyone that's going to be watching this. And I want to just thank you for your commitment to making the world a healthier place, and for really, I love talking to people that are so passionate about one thing. And everything's connected, right? So it's great to kind of really get nitty gritty and pick one thing. Hey, I'm going to try to solve this problem. And I see that you're doing that in the realm of light and biorhythms, and I love it. So thanks for your work and commitment to creating products that improve people's lives, and for doing the work,
Absolutely.
because it's not easy work. I know, it's so it takes a real commitment to change things and to help people change. So
It does. And like the greatest rewards is that I get to connect with people, for example, who have been suffering with insomnia, with anxiety for years. And they've been puzzled and confused about all these different solutions. And one of the greatest joy to my heart is to see that when people are implementing those simple steps, that they're able to, you know, go through that transformational journey from insomnia to great sleep, from anxiety to inspiration. And that brings a lot of joy, and it gives me a lot of energy to stay dedicated and to continue focus on what I'm doing. And another great thing is that I get to meet amazing people like yourself, Devin, because I know how much you care about your clients. I know how much you're passionate about the topic of sleep, and it's such a pleasure to be able to connect with people like yourself,
Yeah, I
and
appreciate
to
it.
team up and to collaborate together so that we can serve the world better. So that's such a joy. And I just want to say also that we probably covered a lot today, and it may seem like that it's new information, that it may seem for someone who's listening for the first time that it's flying over their head. What I want to reassure people is, if it seems complicated, it's because you're probably listening to it for the first time. So give it another listen. The second time is going to be easier and easier. The third time is going to be extremely simple.
Yes.
And one more thing is, we have a free e-booklet called Light, the Key to Mastering Your Sleep and Energy. And after like 7 years of diving into the complexity of like quantum biology, circadian biology, I literally sat down and I wanted to create a guide that will help people absorb this information. Like a 3 years old kid could read it and know exactly what they can do today to elevate their life to a whole new level and start experiencing better sleep, better mood, better energy. So what I want to advise people is, like, take advantage of this tool,
Mm.
download it. I'll share it. I'll share the link with you, Devin. You could add it down in the description. And it's a phenomenal tool that will allow you to know exactly what to do today, and it will break it down for you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Devin or to us at VivaRays, support@vivarays.com.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for putting that together. We'll definitely put that in the description for people to take advantage that watch this. And I love the recommendation to rewatch it. I'm definitely going to rewatch it, take some notes of the things that I learned on this conversation. And yeah, like I said, we'll set up a round two, and I get to ask you more of some more fun questions that we didn't get to.
I love that.
Um, but yeah, until then, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon, Roudy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Devin.
Cheers. Hey.